Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope everyone enjoyed last evening. Now, we have this morning essentially three elements to get through. We have, firstly, we start with attempting to agree the ballot paper that we began discussion on last night. We heard what the comments you made. We have redrafted the ballot paper to, as far as we can, faithfully take account of those comments. And you have that redrafted paper before you, and we will move to that directly after I finish introducing it. We will do so with the assistance of Owen, who helped us with the redraft, as well as the other members of the academic team, Leah and David. So that will be before you in a moment. We will then move to the issue of any other amendments, and we will have a number of presentations on those, essentially a summary of the submissions that have come in and the points that are raised under any other amendments. And then we will have a presentation from Peter McKenna, who will be pulling together, if you like, the recommendations that have been made in other examinations of the Constitution. And it's a very valuable piece of work, and it's important that we as a convention understand the work that has preceded, if you like, the foundations upon which we are building our own work. So that, if you like, is the agenda for this morning. But the first item, and the very important item, and I hope it's one that we can get through reasonably quickly, is the ballot paper, the approval of the ballot paper, discussion and approval of the ballot paper. And Owen is going to take us through and help us understand the revised paper and the logic behind it, and answer any questions that anybody may have about it. Owen.
Okay, good morning. Arising out of the discussion yesterday, there are a couple of legal issues relating to the text of the ballot paper, and that's what I'm going to talk through. Should reference to the offence of blasphemy in the Constitution be kept? Yes, no, undecided. That's a straightforward decision, and no obvious legal difficulty arises there. But unfortunately, the rest did create some questions for me, so I have to work this morning. In the event that the Convention favours change to the Constitution, should the offence of blasphemy be removed altogether, replaced with a new general provision to include incitement to religious hatred, or undecided? And the main unclear legal point here relates to what happens if the offence of blasphemy is removed from the Constitution altogether. Does this mean that the status of religion is significantly impacted or downgraded? And the answer is no. The Constitution contains a whole range of protections for religion. And in particular, I just want to draw your attention to the first sentence of Article 44. Article 44, Section 1, the state acknowledges that the homage of public worship is due to Almighty God. It shall hold his name in reverence and shall respect and honour religion. So that even if you remove blasphemy from the Constitution, there are other things in the Constitution that protect and uphold the concept of religion in its own terms. The third question, should there be a legislative provision for the offence of blasphemy? Yes, no, undecided. So if you say there should not be a legislative provision for the offence of blasphemy, that is to say, removing the existing legislative protections in Section 36 of the Defamation Act 2009, that's still, like with the religion and the Constitution issue, there are still other things that can do a similar job. So just to remind you that yesterday we talked about the Prohibition of Incitement to Hatred Act, where the definition of hatred included hatred for religious on religious grounds. So there already is a general protection of religion in the Prohibition of Incitement to Hatred Act 1989. And then fourth, in the event that the Constitution favours a legislative provision, it should be the existing blasphemy legislative provision, which we discussed yesterday, a new set of detailed legislative provisions to include incitement to religious hatred, or undecided or no opinion. the new set of detailed legislative provisions would pick up on and amplify the incitement to religious hatred point that already exists in the Incitement to Hatred Act. And again, yesterday we referred to the UK Race and Religious Hatred Act 2006, which gives detailed definition of what constitutes a protected religion, what constitutes incitement, what constitutes hatred, what constitutes the kind of broadcast or publication that would be caught, and so on. So those are the sorts of the legal issues that arise around this wording. And I was told I had 3 minutes. I hope I have come under the 3 minutes. Are there any questions? Now I'm beginning to sound like tomorrow in class. Are there any questions on what I've just said?
Robert, please. Mic here. Could we have the mic here, please? Thanks, Mary. Sorry. Robert, there you are.
Robert, just in relation to question 4, I mean, do you consider that in relation to the middle part, a new set of detailed legislative provisions to include incitement to religious hatred, do you think that is adequately covered in law at the moment? You seem to imply that in your opening remarks.
Well, what I said was there in the existing law already is a reference to incitement to religious hatred in the Prohibition of Incitement to Hatred Act, but I wouldn't say that that amounts to a set of detailed legislative provisions. The UK is a good example where there is considerably more detail, so it would be open to the Convention to decide that more detail is necessary.
Thank you. Katrina.
Margaret. Just, I had suggested yesterday, following there was discussion at our table and I know other tables about incitement to hatred. We didn't say incitement to religious hatred. We were looking at incitement to hatred in its broadest form. You know, different various types of hate crime, and detailed proposals and strong anti-discrimination proposals. So I would respectfully suggest that we should be taking out the religious there and just incitement to hatred. Because if you look at the proposals in Britain, it's race, also homophobic. So I just think it should be broader than religious hatred. And I suppose the way it's been captured here, that's probably, for me, the best way that we can deal with it.
I'll take a legal answer, and then if there's a policy answer, I'll pass it back to the top table. The legal answer is that there already is a long list of grounds where incitement is prohibited in the Prohibition of Incitement to Hatred Act 1989. It's just that in the context of religious hatred, there aren't detailed provisions. There are detailed provisions in respect of lots of the other grounds that you've already just referred to. And in fact, in almost all of the other grounds, the Irish legislation is more effective than the UK legislation. It is just on the context of religion where there isn't additional detail, which has been provided in the UK but not in Ireland. So the full list of non-discrimination grounds that tend to apply in equality legislation, they were in fact taken from and modelled on the list of prohibited grounds in the Incitement to Hatred Act. So effectively that's already there except for religion. But if there is an additional policy point, I would leave that to the chair.
Well, I mean, I think your answer seems to me to in a sense, cover Katrina's comment. Well, I would have interpreted it, so maybe you disagree, but, you know, and the other fact is, of course, that, I mean, we are looking here at the issue, obviously, of blasphemy, and, you know, I do want to retain a ballot paper which, if you like, as far as possible, connects to that issue, rather, because in yesterday when I opened, I did say that there are a number of aspects of, if you like, broadly speaking, church and state relations, which could be considered, and we will be considering, you know, in the next session, we'll be going down through a list of some of those, but I wanted to keep the focus on blasphemy during this weekend's discussion.
Okay.
Any other comments? Yeah, Paula first, and then Pat.
Hi,
Peter
Paula Sheridan. Just, I suppose, an extension of Katrina's point. If it is religious hatred, then does that cover someone who's an atheist?
We discussed this yesterday. That's one of the many gaps in the current legislation, that it specifies, for example, the blasphemy provision specifies insulting, grossly abusive or insulting in respect of a religion. So it doesn't cover grossly or abusive, insulting comments in respect of atheism. Whereas the UK detail does. It says that religious hatred is on the grounds of having a religion or not having a religion. So that's the kind of detail that would be encompassed in the detailed legislative provisions in the second answer to question 4. That's exactly the kind of thing that would need to be covered in that context to decide whether or not that should be covered.
Okay, I think that's a very good answer. Peter?
My name is Farrah Halligan from Cork. Just about the ballot paper, I know we kind of covered this yesterday, but it's something I was thinking about overnight. The way question 1 leads into question 2, the question I'd like to answer first is, should the offence of blasphemy removed altogether, and if not, then can we change it? Because I think that's an important distinction. Like, my preference would be a removal, and then if not, let's fix it or change it. The offence of blasphemy is speaking out against God or gods or holy things, which I don't think the government should be in the business of, arbitrating that relationship between people and the spiritual. But I'd rather that preference of, should we remove it altogether, and then if not, should we change it? But that's just me.
David, would you like to?
I'll have a go at this. I think what I'd just do is remind you of the way in which the convention itself decided at our very first weekend how you preferred to do the voting, so that the very first question is simply asking, do you want to leave things as they are or not? That's all it's asking. And then if the convention as a whole says, no, we don't want to leave the blasphemy law as it is, we want to do something else, then the second question is saying, okay, what is it you want to do? Do you want to get rid of it altogether or amend it in some way? So it's the logic that the convention made a very strong point about in the very first session. Obviously, it's up to the convention to decide if you prefer to do it a different way.
Well, I think, as you said, we've actually followed that logic in all of our issues up to now, and I think it's actually very based on a very solid logic that the Constitution is there. It's there for a reason, and if it's to be changed, there needs to be a clear decision to change it and a good reason for changing it. So I would recommend that we stick to that logic in the case of this ballot paper. My sense is that there's agreement with the ballot paper, the revised ballot paper, because I don't see any further hands up, and in that event we would then ask it to be translated into Irish so that it can be voted upon later on. Agreed? Thank you.